I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a regular business meeting of the Redmond City Council held on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, commencing at 7:00 p.m. I will call roll, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Here.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Fields.
Here.
Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Here.
Councilmember Salahuddin.
Here.
And Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
There is going to be a motion to rearrange the agenda. Council President.
I move to rearrange the agenda to move new business item B to directly after public comment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a proclamation for the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe ancestral lands, and I would love to invite some of the council members from the Snoqualmie tribe up while I read the proclamation. Come on up. I'll just have you stand here while Whereas the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe, as a sovereign tribal nation, signed the Treaty of Point Elliott on January 22, 1855. By signing this treaty, the United States government affirmed and recognized the Snoqualmie's inalienable inherent status as a separate sovereign nation that has existed since time immemorial. In return for extensive concessions by the Snoqualmie people, the United States recognized and promised to respect and protect the Snoqualmie Indian tribe's reserved rights, including the ability to fish, hunt, and gather in their ancestral homelands as they had done for thousands of years before. Whereas the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe has launched the Ancestral Lands Movement, where through education and awareness, an individual can integrate land acknowledgement and respect for the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe into their recreational practices and experiences. The Ancestral Land Movement seeks to spread awareness of the Snoqualmie people who have lived in the southern Salish Sea region since time immemorial, for as long as the earth and waters remember, and share the significance of this land and provide information on how people can help the tribe in respecting, restoring, and protecting these lands. Whereas the Salish Sea region has grown in population, the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe's ancestral lands have been heavily impacted by recreation. Tribal resources impacted by outdoor recreation include the ancestral lands of all Washington tribes, including sacred sites which have spiritual, ceremonial, and traditional significance. Tribal resources also include wildlife, fisheries, and flora species throughout Washington, which all hold special tribal significance. Whereas the City of Redmond has pledged to support the Snoqualmie Tribe's Ancestral Lands Movement as a city partner by acknowledging that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land. The City of Redmond is grateful to the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe who have an intimate knowledge and expertise in stewardship of the land. Whereas the City of Redmond urges its residents and neighbors to practice respect for the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe's ancestral lands by helping protect and restore those lands for generations to come. Now, therefore, I, Angela Burney, Mayor of the City of Redmond, Washington, acknowledge that the City of Redmond is proud to be a city partner to the Snoqualmie Tribe's Ancestral Land Movement. And with that, I have the proclamation to present to our tribal members, and I will ask the chairman, after we take a few pictures, to say a few words. Set this down here. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. And good evening. As chairman of the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe, I stand before you as a voice for our ancestors and future generations. For thousands of years, the Snoqualmie people have called this land our home. The rivers, the mountains, the forests are not just a backdrop to our lives. They are a lifeblood of peoples, culture, and spirit. In 1855, we signed the Treaty of Point Elliott, and the United States recognized our sovereignty and our rights to this land. For generations, we have fished, hunted, and gathered here, and we intend to continue doing so long into the future. Today, these ancestral lands face new challenges. The growth of the cities like Redmond and the rise of recreational activities have impacted the lands and hold spiritual and cultural significance for our people. One such place is Merrimore Park, where significant archaeological discoveries were made. In 2008 and 2009, artifacts were uncovered that dated back 13,000 years ago, revealing one of the oldest sites in the region. The sites near Merrimore have been named Hubal, honoring our history and Lashuti language. These discoveries remind us that these lands are not just recreational places, but part of our heritage. This is why the Snoqualmie tribe launched the Ancestral Lands Movement, to remind everyone of the deep history these lands hold and to encourage respect, recreation. We are grateful to the City of Redmond for standing with us, acknowledging these lands as indigenous and committing to protect them for future generations. Our ancestors are watching, and our future generations depend on us. Let us honor them by continuing this important work by respecting and protecting these lands as we've done since time immemorial. Thank you.
And once again, I would like to thank you all for coming and joining us this evening. It is really an important moment for us to be able to celebrate with you this proclamation. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is items from the audience. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak tonight. When I read your name, you will come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. Council members generally will not respond to comments or questions directly at the meeting. Members of the public are welcome to email the council anytime at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. The views stated by members of the public do not represent the opinion of the City of Redmond. And as a reminder, RCW 4217A555 prohibits any public comment during the council meeting in support or opposition of ballot propositions, measures, or candidates. You may speak regarding Initiative 2066 during the comment period immediately following items from the audience. All comments must pertain to the City of Redmond business as indicated on the sign-in sheet. And there are 5 people signed up to speak tonight. And also for clarity, we have a regular public comment, and then we have speakers for Initiative 2066. And then we do have a couple of public hearings for the budget and for our TIP, I think, if I recall. So there are... If I call your name and you meant to sign up for something else, just let me know. And then at the end of the public comment, if there's someone who intended to sign up for this and didn't, please, I'll ask and you can raise your hand and I'll call you up. So I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to speak at the right, appropriate time. So with that, we have 4 members of the audience who want to speak tonight. We start with Alex Zimmerman, then David Morton, then Bob Yoder, then Brian McCarty. And Mr. Zimmerman, I would like to remind you to please speak and stay inside of our rules for this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I will speak only about your city. Don't worry. Yeah. So, beginning, yeah. Sie Heil, my dirty, damn Nazi, Gestapo, anti-Semite fascist. My name is Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about business, what as I see in Redmond for a long time. I come to this place probably for 20 plus years. Yeah. I want to speak about your mayor. She's very popular. And this makes me very happy because she's very popular. So right now, Democratic junta approved her be a member of Sound Transit. Why? It's very interesting. My understanding, because train between Bellevue and Redmond right now for a few months absolutely empty. And everybody right now knows this, not only State Washington. So they appoint her because she's very good. It's $160 billion spent for nothing. You know what this means? A Ponzi scheme, and I talk about this from beginning for 10 years. I like this because she's very popular. Right now, they appoint her to homeless. A new trick what is government make right now for foolish 2.5 million people in King Country. Government will be controlled right now. Council will be controlled right now. You want from this council, this your mayor. So my question right now, and I'm talking about this for many years, she will stop in homeless who every year die 500 people? I don't think so. Or something, what is yes, okay, Each homeless costs us $50,000 per year. Rent or studio, ever in Redmond, you know what this means, is $10,000 approximately. So $40,000 is a people money what is we spend for nothing. It kill people. And she will change this? I don't think so. She's a classic example what is doing them Nazi, Gestapo, fascist, a junta, a bandita. Stand up, America, you know what this means? We need make Redmond, what is Trump talking about? Look better, you know what this means? And after this, make America great again. When we will doing this, maybe
Point of order.
stop and killing people.
Yes.
The speaker is using campaign slogans.
Oh,
in
you
the
baby
council
doing
chambers.
this all time. It's not legal. You cannot do it.
Mr.
Interrupt me.
Zimmerman, that's
It's
your
not
first warning.
legal.
If you get another warning, we will remove you from
Okay,
speaking.
thank you very much. It's not legal. 3 decisions U.S. Supreme Court make only for.
Mr. Morton, you're up next, then Bob Yoder, then Brian McCarty. Carly.
Evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. Redmond's climate and equity-focused policies and commitments are thoughtful, progressive steps towards a sustainable and equitable future. Here's why these initiatives are good ideas. First, climate justice is crucial
Mr.
since
Morton?
climate change.
Mr. Morton, this is just public comment. You can't speak in favor or against any kind of initiatives during this time, so you have to stick with just business of the city of Redmond. We're going to have a second comment period if you're for or against the initiative.
I see. I'm talking about Redmond's climate and equity.
I'm sorry.
Point of order.
Policies.
I believe the speaker was speaking to the initiatives of the city of
Oh,
Redmond.
I'm so sorry. I heard the term initiative, and I assumed
Oh.
that you were talking about that. Sorry about that. My
A
bad.
different kind of initiative where Redmond is taking
not
an
the one
initiative.
we're having a discussion about tonight, but just the
Oh,
climate
okay.
initiatives.
Sorry
Okay,
about
Thank you.
using.
No, that's my mistake. I'll give you your time back. Let's
I
start
see.
over.
The word has double meaning. Yes, okay.
Yes, it does tonight. Thank you.
I can start over, or?
Yeah, please do. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Redmond's climate and equity-focused policies and commitments are thoughtful, progressive steps towards a sustainable and equitable future. Here's why these alternate definition initiatives are good ideas. First, climate justice is crucial since climate change disproportionately impacts marginalized communities. Redmond's commitment to advancing equity ensures that marginalized groups are prioritized in its sustainability plans, fostering inclusivity and reducing inequities, thereby mitigating the effects of environmental degradation on vulnerable populations. Second, Redmond's 2020 Climate Emergency Declaration and 30-year Environmental Sustainability Action Plan, or ESAP, set long-term measurable goals like achieving municipal carbon neutrality by 2030 and community-wide carbon neutrality by 2050. By formalizing these targets, Redmond shows a proactive commitment to concrete, actionable change, which is necessary to combat the accelerating climate crisis. Third, energy use trends. Although Redmond has achieved a 5% decrease in overall energy use since 2011, the increase in natural gas usage is a concern. Addressing this issue, as outlined in the ESAP, is critical to further reducing Redmond's carbon footprint. The city's focus on reducing natural gas use and exploring all-electric construction is forward-thinking and aligns with global trends towards renewable energy. Fourth, as a founding member of the King County Cities Climate Collaboration, Redmond is part of a collective effort to address climate change on a regional scale. This collaboration allows for shared resources, ideas, and strategies that strengthen the city's sustainability goals and leverage greater impact through joint commitments like reducing fossil fuel use in buildings by 80% by 2050. Fifth, natural gas use reduction. To reach its greenhouse gas reduction goals, Redmond can take a stance on avoiding policies that require access to natural gas while promoting electrification and green energy alternatives. Aligning Redmond's policies with state-level climate action policies ensures that local efforts complement broader state initiatives. And sixth, by resisting any policies that might roll back progress on reducing natural gas use or might incentivize natural gas use, Redmond safeguards its ability to reach ambitious climate goals, which is essential for long-term environmental and economic sustainability. Together, these policies can create a cleaner, more equitable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bob Yoder and then Brian I think it's McCarley. Thank you.
Downhill faster than I go uphill now. Bob Yoder, 98052. I just got back from the hotel, the homeless hotel. I thought they had their community meeting tonight, but it's the last Tuesday of the month. And I do have contact information. I'm going to be following them very closely, as I mentioned before, because I think what they do is going to be a lot what's going to happen over at the supposed Plymouth Hotel, if that happens. The thing that really stood out was that the place is very clean. At 6 o'clock or 7:15 when they have dinner, nobody was there eating. Now, it's gone up from a population of 10 individuals to 15 individuals now, to 12 to 15. The King County Council members, or council constituents of King County paid $25 or $6 million for it, and we have 15 people there. The rest of the folks out in the streets or here on the east side, where are they? I mean, this is urgent. They should be there. Why are we dragging our feet? We need to ask Dow Constantine that. I will keep reporting back on them, and apparently they do go out. There's a guy, Peter, who meets with them once a month, and they go over where they can find work. And that's what's most important to me, if you can rehabilitate these people and get them out to work. They are being entertained, they're getting recreation. There's a van that takes them. They went to the Seattle Aquarium, which is good. They have orca passes. They walk around. They have freedom to walk around because they're residents. And and they all have phones. So I will be in touch with David Kennedy, the media guy, with more information to you, for you. That's all I can think of right now. Thank you.
Next, we have Brian McCarley, and that's all I have for public comment, not related to the initiative or the other public hearing. So if there's anyone I've missed, please let me know. Okay.
How are y'all doing? Thank you, Mayor and Thank you, Council. This is the second time that I've been here now in a situation. It's kind of, it's not my normal role as a minister, but I do appreciate this opportunity. This time I prepared 2 copies of everything I'm talking about because I realized maybe last time because I didn't really have any kind of factual evidence for you guys to review. Maybe that's why I didn't get a call back. So this time what we're basically looking at is a letter from the police chief or the fire chief as well as the EMT's report of the night that we're talking about. So what we're just gonna discuss here is on May 24, 2024, a call from Lawrence here to 911 for dizziness and difficulty walking, which ended up not getting him to the hospital at all. The hospital from where we live is only a couple blocks away, but he later on, 2 days later, with Swedish emergency room finally seeing him, he had extreme vertigo. I don't know if you guys know what vertigo is, but instead of feeling dizzy like you're drunk, it's where the world's spinning around you. And he had an extreme case because, I mean, it had been going on still for 3 days. So now what I don't, really, want to pound this in, but I feel like it has to be brought up because one of the documents here is the state of Washington Supreme Court back in 2020 denoted information about Black Lives Matter, and it's an important factor. I'm not a black person, but I am a minister, and I do see a lot of times individuals that are of color not get treated fairly. I love this city, but there's only 2.2% of the population that are black here. So this young man here, when he called 911 and was experiencing what he was experiencing, the EMS, in their own report that the chief of the fire department says they didn't do anything outside of the procedure, and everything was done to our high standards. So what I did is this brief little document that the EMT writes out after their call, put it into AI. I also put the Washington State procedure and protocol for EMTs of what they're supposed to do. Put it into ChatGPT, put in the comments that the EMT guy made, and right off the bat, the EMS reported that he didn't immediately open the door because he did not, let's see, sorry, I get a little nervous because you guys are a big deal, so. The EMS reported that he didn't open the door immediately, and that he, well, let's just over the part right here where it says it, because the actual report says he would not open the door. So the EMT right off the bat states that he wouldn't open the door, but he was having extreme vertigo. He was going from his bed. It took him 3 minutes to get to the door. So right away, the EMT suggesting that he didn't want to open the door. But he finally got the door open, and the first thing that Lawrence notices is there's no place for him to sit or a bed or a cot or, you'd think, is that 3 minutes already?
That was 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I mean, guys, please, I don't know if this, I mean, these are what I'm talking about right here. All we want you guys to do is just take a look at this. This is a legitimate situation. It's just, I think it's fair to look at the situation of it because it's not fair. He doesn't feel comfortable calling 911.
Mayor, can you give him?
I mean, I'm standing up for.
Just a moment, sir. So your time's up, but what you can do is you can leave the notes with the clerk, and the clerk can scan it and send it all to the council. So thank you.
He matters. He's a good man. I love this guy. He's my friend. Thank you. I do anything for what's right.
So next, so is there anyone else who would like to speak from items from the audience about general things for the city? Going once, going twice. Great, thank you. Any written comment has been distributed to the council and no one has signed up to speak remotely, but items from the audience is now closed. However, the next item is new business, item B, AM number 24161, considering passage of a resolution opposing Initiative 2066, the ballot title of which is as follows. Initiative Measure 2066 concerns regulating energy services, including natural gas and electrification. This measure would repeal or prohibit certain laws and regulations and discourage natural gas use, excuse me, and/or promote electrification and require certain utilities and local governments to provide natural gas to eligible customers should this measure be enacted into law, yes or no. The resolution is resolution number 1595, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Redmond, Washington, opposing Initiative Measure 2066 concerning regulating energy services, including natural gas and electrification. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak in person tonight. When I call your name, you'll have time. You'll come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. As a reminder, If you're speaking in support of the resolution, it's speaking in opposition to the initiative. If you're speaking in opposition to the resolution of the council, it is speaking in support of Initiative 2066. And there are, and it'll all make sense in a moment, there are 11 people signed up to speak tonight on this item, and no one has requested to speak remotely. So I'll call about the first 4 names, so just be ready to come up. Michael Leach, William King, David Morton, Devin Kellogg, and Rhea Wren are the first 5.
Thank you, council members. My name is Michael. I'm with Move Redmond. I'm here in support of the city resolution 1595 opposing initiative 2066. This initiative, while disguised as a solution, threatens to undermine local control and divert critical local resources away from essential services, including education and public safety. And by supporting this resolution, Redmond can affirm its commitment to a sustainable, community-driven approach to growth and development. And it also sends the message that city management decisions shouldn't be just dictated by a broad, one-size-fits-all measure that fails to account to our unique needs. I urge you to prioritize solutions that foster collaboration and strengthen our neighborhoods and invest in our future. And opposing this initiative is a step towards ensuring that our city remains a place where everyone can thrive. Thank you.
All right, next we have William King, then David Morton, then Devin Kellogg, then Rhea Wren, then Yuanming Zhao.
Thank you, Council. My name is Bill King. I've been a resident of downtown Redmond for 8 years, and I support this resolution opposing I-2066. We've all seen the impacts of climate change, from hurricanes out east to hotter, smokier summers here at home. I-2066 would limit Redmond's ability to responsibly manage our energy and climate impact. It's an initiative written by fossil fuel corporations to keep us all tethered to their products, rather than allowing communities like Redmond to decide for ourselves what's right for us. It forces energy companies to continue investing in outdated energy sources, even as usage declines, which is a cost that will be passed on to all of us through our energy bills. Please pass this resolution opposing I-2066. Thank you.
All right, next is David Morton, then Devin Kellogg, then Rhea Wren, then Yuanming Zhao, then Marilyn Subala.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. I support the council's resolution opposing Initiative 2066, which has detrimental impacts on Redmond's environmental sustainability and community well-being. I-2066 has dangerous regulatory and public health consequences. First, the initiative promotes continued reliance on natural gas, which contradicts efforts to mitigate climate change. By protecting access to natural gas, I-2066 undermines the shift to cleaner, renewable energy sources. The initiative frames natural gas as a vital energy source, but the combustion of natural gas contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions, exacerbating the climate crisis. I-2066 would delay Washington's progress toward reducing emissions, a critical goal in combating climate change and protecting public health. Second, I-2066 restricts local governments and regulatory bodies from setting their own energy standards. It prohibits cities, towns, and counties from limiting or discouraging the use of natural gas in buildings, thus removing local autonomy in energy decisions. This undermines the ability of local governments to implement stricter energy efficiency measures or transition to renewable energy, potentially stalling innovations in green building codes and other sustainability initiatives. Such centralization may prevent Redmond from making decisions that best serve its environmental and economic interests. Third, while the initiative claims to protect consumer choice, it prioritizes outdated infrastructure at the expense of long-term energy resilience. Renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and geothermal are increasingly cost-effective and sustainable. By mandating the preservation of natural gas infrastructure, I-2066 makes consumers dependent on a fossil fuel that will become less economically viable over time as carbon regulations tighten and the world shifts towards cleaner energy. Finally, natural gas infrastructure poses health and safety risks, including the risk of gas leaks and indoor air pollution like carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides produced when natural gas is burned. Allowing and protecting the use of natural gas ignores these risks. In summary, Initiative 2066 contradicts efforts to fight climate change, limits local governance, and prioritizes fossil fuels over cleaner, safer alternatives. It locks Washington into outdated energy models instead of promoting innovation and sustainability, which are critical for a resilient, healthy future for Redmond. Thank you.
Next is Devin Kellogg, then Rhea Ren, then Yongming Zhao, then Marilyn Sabala, then Bob Yoder.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Devin Kellogg. I'm a longtime resident of Ed Hill. I'm also a parent, teacher, and stable climate advocate, speaking in opposition to Initiative 2066, so in favor of the resolution. I'd like to thank the Council for putting this resolution forward and for recently opposing other initiatives as well. These two initiatives would severely impact climate mitigation efforts across our state, including right here in Redmond. In a nutshell, I-2066 would severely limit how various funding sources and policies can support our transition to cleaner energy in our buildings. As a reminder, a top source of our cities and 25% of our state's heat-trapping pollution comes from combustion heating in buildings. Methane is the primary component of natural gas, is particularly potent, and rapidly reducing it is the fastest way to meet our climate goals. And it's also toxic and explosive. So I personally don't want it in our home. I'm thrilled with our 0-degree heating and cooling pump and induction cooktop, and I'm not alone. But I think it's important to point out that I-2066 is unnecessary to protect folks who want to keep using gas, because utilities already have a legal obligation to serve. What it does do is hinder incentives for cleaner alternatives, prohibit local air quality protections, obliterate statewide energy efficiency and clean energy priorities and policies, and limit regional planning options. For example, it specifically prohibits climate commitment dollars from helping low-income residents and businesses install non-emitting energy-efficient heating and cooling systems like ours, which save money and are becoming increasingly necessary for our health and safety in a warming world. It would also gut Redmond's Energy Smart East Side and Green Buildings incentive programs, which are necessary for our city to meet its top goals. I just saw an announcement that there was enough federal funding on its way to provide 1.2 million Washingtonians with clean energy systems and utility assistance. If local jurisdictions have their hands tied by 2066, how will folks access these opportunities as intended? It's reasonable to wonder how all this electrification will affect energy costs, backup heat, and emergency power, which is why utilities are authorized to plan for these contingencies and chart the most cost-effective way forward, including for folks who want to continue using gas. Some of the solutions being considered are quite exciting, such as district-wide energy systems, EV battery support for local power and grid resilience, and more. 2066 repeals these utility planning provisions and hinders exploration into promising alternatives. It's up to us to meet this moment. Let's not roll back common sense policies that support affordable clean energy transition. Please oppose 2066. Thank you.
It was exactly 3 minutes. Rhea Ren, Yuangming Zhao, Marilyn Sabala, Bob Yoder, and Adam Reinecke.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council and staff, thank you for your time. I'm speaking in support of the resolution opposing Initiative 2066. This initiative mirrors the harmful tactics and misleading intent of Initiative 2117. Both initiatives are backed by the same wealthy interests that profit from pollution and industrial stagnation. Initiative 2066 is designed to let major polluters off the financial hook for the damage they cause, while shifting the costs to residents and local governments. This includes rising healthcare and insurance costs and the burden of environmental cleanup and resiliency efforts. The initiative's deceptive marketing hides its real purpose, blocking meaningful progress on reducing greenhouse gas pollution and upgrading outdated systems to modern standards. Claims that it supports a slow, steady transition or is coming into people's homes are not only inaccurate, but actively misleading for the public. This is not just a delay in Initiative 2066. It's a roadblock and a planned one. As our community faces increasing heat waves, smoke, flooding, and infrastructure strain, we cannot afford to let initiatives like these stall essential progress. Our shared goal, zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, is driven by science, not special interests. Thank you.
Next is Yuanmeng Zhao, then Marilyn Sabala, Bob Yoder, Adam Reinke, then Zara Estami, then Hank Myers.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I am Yuan Meng, a resident of Redmond who supports Resolution Number 1595, which opposes Initiative Number 2066. Initiative Number 2066 concerns natural gas, which is a non-renewable resource obtained through drilling and fracking. Natural gas is mostly composed of methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. It traps much more heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide, and when it finally breaks down in the atmosphere, it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water vapor, both of which continue to trap heat in the atmosphere. Now, when someone uses natural gas, they usually burn it. In an oxygen-rich environment, that produces, again, carbon dioxide. And in an oxygen-lacking environment, that produces carbon monoxide. Given these properties of natural gas, I am frustrated that the initiative aims to remove the requirement to assess electrification and non-pipeline alternatives, and that the initiative would forbid the Washington State Energy Code from even discouraging the use of gas. The initiative is reckless and prioritizes hedonistic kitchen appliance preferences over the fact that Washington State could do its best to create a better environment for the next 1,000 generations. Let's say no to Initiative 2066. Thank you.
Next is Marilyn Sabala, then Bob Yoder, then Adam Reinke, then Zara Estami, then Hank Myers.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Marilyn Sabala, and I enjoy living in Redmond and have resided in my home on Education Hill for 30 years. I strongly encourage you to pass a resolution opposing I-2066. This harmful initiative not only promotes the ongoing use of natural gas, but also prohibits state and local governments from establishing plans to reduce the use of natural gas in the future. Tragically, this initiative would unravel all the progress made thus far to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and fight climate change. I-2066 would roll back existing laws that provide a timeline for our utilities to transition off gas and onto renewable energy, thus locking in the use of dirty fossil fuels far into the future. Washington residents and businesses will be rewarded with higher energy bills and dirty air, as the costs for accommodating the outdated technology are passed on to consumers. Initiative 2066 is costly on multiple levels. The initiative would curtail current energy efficiency programs that are saving Washington residents thousands on their energy bills. It would put an end to incentive programs for residents that are voluntarily switching from gas to electric. It would also roll back the energy efficiency standards established for new buildings, stalling the progress of reducing emissions and putting our ability to reach our greenhouse gas reduction targets in jeopardy. Not only does I-2066 deny cities and counties the ability to make decisions about their energy futures, it undermines the state's Clean Air Act by prohibiting regulations that address pollutions from buildings, including industrial facilities. In short, I-2066 spells disaster for Washington's climate future and is resoundingly bad for the health and welfare of all of its residents going forward. Please pass this resolution. Thank you.
Next is Bob Yoder, then Adam Reineke, then Zara Estami, then Hank Myers.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I just read it over this evening, and I went over it with my wife, and when I was told her that gas would be banned with this thing if it passed, her mouth went like an emoji. And that's the way I feel too. This has ramifications if it passes. I used to sell renewable energy for 3 degrees, okay? So I can empathize. But this is kind of grandiose, in my opinion, this initiative. And even if it were to pass, you wouldn't lose your right to using electricity, okay? You could still have that right, so it's not going to be taken away from you. It gives you a decision, an opportunity to make your mind up. Do you want gas or do you want electric? A lot of that's based on the economy, on your budget. I want to make sure that you know that, and there's a lot of money that's involved that restaurants have to pay, they would have to pay to switch over if they chose to do so. And the households, I know that I would not, because it would be so expensive for me. I've heard it goes up to $40,000. And I have, a gas insert. I've got, I have a gas stove. I have a gas furnace and gas water heater. I could see the advantage of changing the water heater, but it would be expensive to do, and it would increase the cost of my living, and I'm not for it because of all those reasons. Thank you.
Next is Adam Reineke, then Zara Estami, then Hank Myers.
Thank you. My name is Adam Reineke. I ride the 2 line every week, and I live in a home on Education Hill that we own and fully electrified during a remodel 2 years ago. I would like to encourage support of the resolution to vote or to discourage the initiative because I think it gives too much freedom to natural gas. A better focus would be on restricting usage of resistive electric heat while retaining access to natural gas for high efficiency applications where it is used directly as fuel for heating. Of the power PSE generated for us in 2022, just under a quarter came from natural gas. Whatever happens, we must not convert that gas into electricity used for resistive heating. We could brag about all electric homes while wasting over half of the energy in that natural gas due to losses in generation. Coal is even worse, wasting 2/3 of the energy. Keep promoting heat pumps, which do the opposite of wasting energy by being as much as 300 or 400% efficient, where 1 unit of electricity goes in and 4 units of heat come out. For scenarios where heat pumps aren't an option due to physical, technological, or capital constraints, it would be a disaster if resistive electric heat was the only alternative choice. We need utilities to keep providing natural gas and allowing new customers to connect. We just need to limit the consumption of that gas in ways that make sense given the energy mix on the grid. Solar and batteries are cheaper than ever. There's new demand for nuclear power. The grid will clean itself up because those sources will end up cheaper than coal or gas, and then the only consumers of natural gas will be those who are forced to choose it. So I support the resolution and keep chasing incentives that drive efficient use of our resources. I have a printed verbatim copy of my notes, if I can leave it.
Of course. Thank you. Next is Zara Estami, then Hank Myers.
Good evening, Mayor and Redmond City Council members. My name is Zahra Islami. I'm an advocate within the Lake Washington PTSA Council. I'm here today to respectfully request the City of Redmond oppose Initiative 2066. Both the Lake Washington PTAs and Lake Washington PTSA Council members have voted to oppose Initiative 2066 due to its significant impact on students and schools, especially in terms of hindering sustainability efforts to address climate change. It is essential Redmond City maintains the ability to incentivize the clean energy transition for the sake of our children and student futures. Thank you so much.
Next is Hank Myers, and if there's anyone who wanted to sign up to speak in support or opposition to the council's resolution, I'll ask that after Mr. Myers speaks.
David Morton and I have a lot in common, particularly on the environment. We have done a number of Green Redmond projects together, planted hundreds of trees, and this Saturday we'll be working together in Arthur Johnson Park. Having said this, it pains me to disagree with the council and Dr. Morton on something as simple and basic as banning natural gas. Even the liberal Seattle Times says it's a stupid idea. When we moved to Redmond in 1976, our house was mostly electric. The water heater was electric, and anyone who's had one will tell you they are slow to heat, high recovery times, and limited volume. We had an electric stove which had the same problems. Fortunately, we had a natural gas furnace. When the water heater was dying, Puget Sound Energy, which was then locally owned, told us it was a stupid idea to own an electric water heater. In addition to the real performance problems, electricity is very inefficient at heating. It requires more energy to raise the temperature 1 degree than for natural gas. Besides, it is better for the electric grid if your heating and cooking is done with natural gas because the peak usage for both utilities is at the same time. So wouldn't you really like a gas stove too? Fast forward to today. Puget Sound Energy is now owned by an Australian conglomerate. It's all about return on investment. Somebody in the state government said it would be a great optics if natural gas were banned. So PSE said, great. We've been hearing a lot of confusing arguments this election, but remember, only in the state of Washington, the state Supreme Court explicitly ruled that lying in a campaign is protected speech. And unfortunately, all of the anti-initiative ads include material falsehoods. Let's turn to the issue of equity, which we all love. If the initiatives are defeated, who will be better off? Well, Puget Sound Energy will make more money at the expense of consumers, and if 2117 is defeated, vested interests will profit while consumers pay more. I understand political dogma and virtue signaling, but it bothers me that you are willing to sacrifice the safety and welfare of your constituents for that. It is important that we reduce our carbon footprint, and that takes real work, which Redmond is not doing, such as turning off the lights in City Hall at night or not using F-250 trucks to deliver overdue water bills. It's a whole lot simpler just to talk a good game because talk is cheap and easy. Banning natural gas is throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or it's making the enemy of the good. You choose. This administration and council have repeatedly made their positions clear on the balance between actually doing something good and rhetoric. I'm not going to affect your votes, but I hope that 70,000 residents of Redmond will listen to reason. Thank you.
Is there anyone who wanted to speak in support or opposition to this and didn't sign up? Just come on up to the mic and tell me your name and I'll write it down. Thank you.
I'm Milo Valentine.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes to address the council. Thank you.
So I want to be upfront that this is not an issue that I have done a ton of research into, this particular initiative and resolution, but climate change and sustainability are a topic that I'm passionate about for personal, emotional reasons. I have a family. I want my family to have a future. I want the earth to have a future. I hear a lot from both sides here, and my take is this. There is so much deliberate and systemic misinformation about each of our individual roles as citizens in abating or I don't know what that word means. I don't know why I use that. Mitigating climate change. In the end, it's a systemic problem. Corporations are the producers of the majority of pollution and of the carbon impact, and they would love it if we as individuals thought that we could fix it by holding hands and recycling. But in the end, it is things like opposing this initiative that make the difference because they are systemic. They have a huger impact that any of us as individuals could make. And opposing them for reasons of personal convenience or short-term finance and losing sight of the broader, bigger picture of our future and what difference we can make when we come together is shooting ourselves in the foot and shooting our children and our children's children in the head. So let's not do that. Let's oppose the initiative to make it easier to keep relying on natural gas that is truly hobbling us as a civilization and a species.
All right, is there anyone else who wanted to address the council on this item? Can you share with me your name, your person?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jason Myers.
What's the last?
Myers.
Myers, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jason Myers. I moved here from the East Coast about 4.5 years ago. One huge difference I've noticed between East and West Coast is the city planning around the environment that's incorporated into the local area. And I thought that when I moved here, it's the most beautiful green cities that I have ever seen. I moved here from Boston. It was pretty intense there. So it is very important that we look towards our alternative energy solutions rather than natural gas so that we can continue to cultivate an environment like this. Because this is some place that I want myself to grow up, I want my family to grow up in, I want my friends' families and kids to grow up in, and to continue to breathe clean, natural air. So yeah, I'm in support of the opposition for the resolution. Is that the correct wording?
You want to support the resolution
of the
in
opposition.
Opposition to the initiative.
To the initiative.
There we go.
So many words there, but yes, I just wanted
what
to
you
come
want to
up and
do.
give my
Okay.
support of that.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Thank you all very much. And with that, that ends the signups for in-person. There is no one who has asked to speak remotely. Public comment is now closed. Is there a motion to approve AM number 24-161, resolution number 1595?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Council President.
So when the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released their most recent report, one of the key things that they noted was that without immediate and deep emissions reductions across all sectors, limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is beyond reach. But the good thing is that we heard from the chair of that commission is that she said we are at a crossroads. The decisions we make now can secure a livable future. We have the tools and the know-how to limit global warming. Here in the city of Redmond, we're doing that. We have a really amazing campaign that we've been doing, converting a lot of our residents from natural gas to heat pumps. We've gotten support from various state and federal agencies to be able to do that, and our council has been able to lead on doing these types of things. Part of the reason why I think our city needs to take a stand against this initiative, I-2066, is because of the language in the initiative that prohibits local governments like ours from prohibiting, penalizing, or even discouraging the use of natural gas. So a program like we have right now, which just basically lets people know that natural gas is a fossil fuel, and when we burn it, it contributes to climate change. And that there are other options, so people can switch to having something like a heat pump for their energy, which uses electricity and hopefully can use clean, green electricity in the long run, and switch away from natural gas. We wouldn't be able to do something like that in the future, or it seems like based on this initiative, my read on it, we would be limited from being able to do even incentivizing programs to bring people along. As a council that has committed to climate action through our Environmental Sustainability Action Plan, as well as in declaring a climate emergency here in our city. I think we need to use every available tool to be able to move our public towards a greener future. And for that reason, I strongly support us passing this resolution and letting our community know that we encourage them to oppose 2066. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all the community members that came out tonight to share their viewpoints on this issue. I was really proud to sponsor this resolution and have my co-sponsors sign on as well. I had comments, but you all nailed it. You all just did your education, did your research, and I can't really add anything else to what you all already said. So just thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your support, and thank you to those that stated their opposition to the resolution, because having this conversation makes us all better. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you so much. I am also very appreciative of all the community members who spoke this evening. Thank you for sharing your opinions. My personal opinion on whether or not we should be telling what our residents should vote is one reason that I considered not voting for this item. However, I will be supporting this because I do support our current policies, our climate action plan, as well as our environmental climate emergency declaration. And so this is a very important matter for me personally. Thank you.
Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson actually, toward the end, just covered exactly what I was going to say. First of all, thank you so much to everyone for sharing your perspectives and opinions. It means a lot, not just in person and taking your time out of your evening, but also all of the emails we've received on both sides. It's, as Council Vice President Forsyth mentioned, it's really important for this critical discussion. I think Michael covered it best. The city decisions should be unique to the city, and local jurisdictions should be able to, provide solutions that cater to our residents. Redmond is in a very unique position, as are all of our cities and jurisdictions, and I think that this resolution does a great job at allowing us to have that meaningful dialogue in moving our city forward in the ways that our council, our residents see it to be. And to echo Councilmember Anderson, completely understand that we shouldn't weigh in on every single decision, but since this affects Redmond so critically and so deeply, I think it's really important. I'll be supporting the resolution, and I appreciate everyone on all sides for this discussion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the council who would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Fields, aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And that passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. And thank you again, as the council mentioned, to our community that spoke both in favor and opposition to this. We appreciate your thoughtful comments and your willingness to come forward and share with the rest of our city. So thank you very much. And back to our agenda. We have our consent agenda is next. Let's see, where are we? Making sure. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items to be pulled? I'm seeing none. This is a roll call vote starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Fields, aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And that passes 7-0. And with that, we have a new member of our Lodging Tax Advisory Committee who will be sworn in at a later time. And thank you to him for being willing to step up and be on a commission. Our next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the 2025-2026 biennial budget. And for this item, we have 7 members of the community. And once again, because we've had multiple times for people to speak, if you at the end want to speak to this as well, just please let me know and we'll give you your 3 minutes. I'm now opening the public hearing. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak in person tonight. When I call your name, you will come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. Starting with Axton Burton, then Michael Leach, then David Morton.
Good evening, members of the City Council and Mayor Bernie. My name is Axton Burton, and I am the Executive Director of Pride Across the Bridge, an all-volunteer nonprofit serving our East King County region. Our mission is to create a safe, inclusive, and equitable community for a diverse 2S LGBTQIA+ family right here in Redmond. We do this through unique events, sharing vetted resources, and local advocacy, all while keeping our programs accessible. Over the past 3 years, PAB's become an essential part of Redmond's growing community. We've created spaces for queer individuals that did not exist before, addressing significant gaps for vulnerable populations within our city. In 2022, we served over 2,000 people, and this year that number grew to 4,700. These numbers represent real people, our neighbors, who have found connection, safety, and belonging through our events. Our flagship event, Redmond Pride, has become a cornerstone of this work, and not just a day of celebration. This helps us sustain our year-round programming. This year alone, we had over 900 attendees, 67 vendors, and more than 25 performers. Local businesses like Woodblock, Spark Pizza, Rudy's, and Hashtag have been key supporters, recognizing the important and positive impact PAB brings to our community. People travel from as far as Lake Stevens, Tacoma, and Mukilteo just to be a part of this event. In this year's post-event surveys, folks shared that Redmond Pride is their favorite annual event in the Pacific Northwest. But it's the lasting sense of community that extends far beyond this single day. Attendees tell us that they feel pride in their community for hosting an event that truly celebrates inclusion. The support that we get from our community shows how vital the small but mighty efforts of Pride Across the Bridge are to making Redmond a more connected, vibrant, and welcoming place to live and visit. Outside of Redmond Pride, we hold 245 events, dear God, for free throughout the year that provide ongoing connection and support. From trans and non-binary gatherings, Rainbow Elder Breakfast, Queer Creative Connections, these events fill critical gaps in care and connection for marginalized groups. We reduce isolation, build community, and create opportunities for meaningful engagement, all of which make Redmond a stronger, more compassionate city. However, despite these strides, we still face significant barriers. We often struggle to find affordable spaces, accessible spaces to hold our gatherings, relying on places like Panera Bread. Neighboring cities like Kirkland and Bellevue have not only worked with us to provide stable spaces for similar events, but have also helped provide with the necessary resources or connections to access those resources to meet the needs of these programs. In Redmond, we've had to fundraise or pay out of pocket to continue offering similar vital programming. We're grateful for the progress we've made together, but there's more that we can do. That's why we're here tonight, to ask for the City of Redmond's investment in this overdue work. The support we provide is critical, and not just for the visibility and safety for the queer community, but the well-being and prosperity of the entire city. We create spaces that reduce isolation, foster pride in community, and strengthen the local economy by drawing visitors and supporters to local businesses. With equitable investment from the City of Redmond, we can continue to grow these events like Redmond Pride and ensure that our year-round programming have stable homes and funding needed to continue. By including Pride Across the Bridge in your biennial budget, you'll be investing in a future where Redmond is known as a leader in inclusivity, a city that truly supports all of its residents. We're passionate about partnering together. Thank you.
Next is Michael Leach, then David Morton, then Yangmeng Zhao, then Bob Yoder.
Hi, council members. Michael Leach with Move Redmond. I just want to echo if there's any way to support Pride Across the Bridge in the way that it supports its community members, I ask you to do so. I'm here actually to speak on about the TIP, but specifically in funding allocating additional design, construction, and maintenance funding in the 2025-2026 budget for protected bike lanes.
So we have another.
I know it's about the TIP.
Okay.
But it's about the budget assigning additional funding.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay, yeah.
Perfect.
Specifically, yes, assigning additional funding in the budget for protected bike lanes on some of the TIP's buffered bike lane projects on Bellred Road, Avondale Road, Old Redmond Road, and Redwood Road. I have my own specific thoughts about the TIP, which I will share later, but regarding specifically the funding for protected bike lanes, we all know what it's like to ride on Redmond's trails. They're safe, separated, and enjoyable. But how do we get from those trails? Most of us ride on the streets. If we feel safe enough to do so. But in our 40+ outreach events this year, with Move Redmond, we've spoken with hundreds of Redmond residents. Over and over, we've heard the same thing. People love riding their bikes on trails, but they're hesitant or even scared to ride on the streets, especially on arterials like Bellred and Avondale. They share stories of close calls with cars, inattentive drivers, and constant fear of being too close to fast-moving traffic with no physical protection. And if we want to provide a trail-like experience along our arterial roads, we need to invest in low-stress, protected bike lanes with physical protection. By building physical barriers to separate cyclists from traffic, we can encourage more people to ride, whether it's on bikes, scooters, or powered mobility devices. And yeah, you know, a strip of paint won't save your life. A protected bike barrier would. And it's not just about building these lanes, it's also about maintaining them. They require different maintenance funding. Protected bike, they require a different level of upkeep than regular streets. And so if we're serious about creating safe year-round cycling infrastructure, we just need to make sure we fund additional ongoing maintenance. I urge you to allocate funding in the upcoming budget to make Redmond streets as safe and enjoyable as our trails. Thank you for your support. Thanks.
Next is David Morton, then Yongming Zhao, then Bob Yoder, then Zella Gaylor, and then Milo Valentine.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. We appreciate the work you've done in preparing the preliminary 2025-2026 biennial budget. As you continue to refine this budget, it's important to prioritize public safety and infrastructure improvements. A well-balanced budget ensures that Redmond can address immediate needs while planning for the future, allowing your city to maintain its high quality of life while managing growth effectively. First, regarding public safety, considering continued investment in your police, fire, and emergency services is critical. Redmond has grown significantly in recent years, and with that growth comes a greater need for responsive and effective emergency services. Increasing the number of first responders can help ensure timely responses to emergencies, especially as your community expands. I urge the council to allocate additional funds for police training programs that emphasize de-escalation and community engagement. This will ensure that your law enforcement is equipped to handle a wide range of situations in a way that fosters trust with residents. Additionally, I encourage the council to increase funding for fire department resources and emergency medical services, particularly as the city continues to expand. Second, infrastructure improvements should be a key focus for the 2025-2026 biennium. Redmond's transportation networks, roads, and sidewalks are essential for the daily lives of residents. To accommodate a growing population and ensure that Redmond remains accessible for all, Redmond could consider increasing investment in road maintenance and the expansion of pedestrian and bike-friendly pathways. This would not only improve safety, but also reduce traffic congestion and encourage more sustainable modes of transportation. Additionally, targeted investments in improving public transit access could help reduce your carbon footprint and make it easier for residents to get around the city. Improved transit options would particularly benefit seniors, students, and those without access to private vehicles, helping create a more inclusive community. By prioritizing public safety and infrastructure improvements in the upcoming budget, Redmond can remain a safe, accessible, and thriving community. I appreciate your time and consideration of these priorities and look forward to seeing the final budget that reflects Redmond's needs and values. Thank you for your dedication to serving this community.
Next is Yongming Zhao, Bob Yoder, Zella Gaylor, and then Milo Valentine.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I am Yuanmeng Zhao, a resident of Overlake Village. I would firstly like to thank city staff for working on the preliminary budget. It is a massive multi-hundred-page document, and though I skimmed the budget summary instead, I still found the full document helpful as a reference for certain items. Secondly, I would like to thank council for proposing items such as the hiring of more mental health professionals and social workers, the gun buyback program, and data governance. I believe that these items will increase trust in the city and within communities. Lastly, I hope that the city will consider investing more in emergency planning, which is a concern I frequently heard during council conversations. I believe that the water shortage plan could count as an example of emergency planning But even then, I noticed it is on the planned 2027 budget instead of the preliminary 2025 budget. I do also notice that there are a variety of other plans, including utility plans, that are lined up for 2025, though. So I understand if the water shortage plan cannot be moved up. Thank you.
Next is Bob Yoder, then Zella Gaylor, then Milo Valentine.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I took a dive into the budget, preliminary budget. I want to thank you, Madam Mayor, for the work you put into it. I realize that it's a changing, moving, living document that you all will approve. I got through it. The part I was really interested in was right up front. You got right to it, talking about listed all the FTEs, the one-time money, which is really, I really like to get a handle on that because I think we need transparency on that a lot. And I just need to talk to the council about it, maybe a office meeting with Mrs. Forsyth, or someone. So where I'm confused is there's got to be a lot more one-time money in your budget somewhere, and so far I haven't found it. I know you used it for about $10 million for the senior center, but that was a different budget. And you call it different names. Now, what I think I heard a couple meetings ago was that you're taking some of the one-time money that comes from the construction, the excise tax, and you're rolling it over into the general fund. And I think I heard that. I tried to find the meeting and couldn't find it. But I would like transparency on that, if that's what you're doing, because it's supposed to have been originally intended for projects like capital investment, and now it looks like you're moving it over into the operating budget, which could involve FTEs, any number of programs that aren't capital investment programs. So please give some transparency on that. And I think that's the case, but it would be nice to know for sure. So thank you very much.
Next is Zella Gaylor, and then Milo Valentine.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman, Council people. My name is Zella Gaylor. I've lived in King County for the past 45 years, and Redmond for the last 10. I served in the United States military for 8. And as you might have been able to tell by looking at me, I'm a transgender woman. This was a very difficult thing and decision to come to, and rationalization that came as part of long talks with a mental health therapist and my family practitioner. When I started this, I found myself in a space of being very, very alone. And I lucked upon Pride Across the Bridge. And this has been a program that has very directly impacted me, helped me find a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and a sense of not being alone. When you look at the population out there, there is a lot of prejudice against this small segment of the population. And by contributing funding and allocating funding specifically to programs like Pride Across the Bridge, specifically for projects like Redmond Pride, you give an outlet for people to be seen and heard within the community. I was initially going to go through and talk about how I think all of this lines up into your core mission statements. You all know this better than, you know these mission statements better than I, and you don't need an impassioned plea. It's just remember the human factor. Remember that there's people out there, living, breathing, voting constituents here that are facing prejudice, especially in these very charged political times, where our future and even our very basis of identity is under threat and being a dog whistle in this political climate. And Again, I wish you would please prioritize putting funding in for Pride Across the Bridge and relative and similar programs that literally help the lives of your constituents. Thank you.
Next is Milo Valentine.
Hey, y'all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Milo Valentine. I am a transgender man. I have had similar experiences. Pride Across the Bridge has been really life-changing for me. I'm losing my flag here. Been really life-changing for me. I never, ever, before I was involved with PAB, found that I could make a difference in my community, thought that I could get involved with local decision making. Like, you know, I never would have been talking to y'all. I never would have been up here right now. But in order for local government to actually be for the people, it has to be by the people. And the way that outreach happens around here, I've learned in my last amount of time working with Pride Across the Bridge, the way that that happens is through local community-based organizations. So Pride Across the Bridge is awesome. East Side for All, awesome. Africans on the East Side, awesome. Indian American Community Services. I could shout out more, but I don't have a ton of time. I really, really strongly beg of you, please, these organizations, they work on a shoestring budget, and they do so much good for the community that so many of us would fall through the cracks without it. I felt so helpless before I came to this organization. We cannot keep doing this without more resourced support from cities, right? Getting donations is great, but that goes with the fluctuations of the economy and where individual people are at. And the queer community is already under-resourced. We are disproportionately affected by the negative impacts of capitalism. We need concrete, reliable support from local governments to fall back on, or we will, like, disintegrate, and then that's a huge portion of your voters who are being unsupported. So I know that you all care very much about organizations that you've worked with. Show your support through actions. Give us money. Honestly, just give us money. We need to keep doing this work and surviving, because I know there are people in my life whose lives have literally been saved, whose mental health has been saved by having this community that they otherwise would not have. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I've done all night long, if there's anyone who, we're just going to keep going. If anyone wanted to speak to the budget in this budget hearing and didn't sign up, let me know. I turned my paper. You're going to have to tell me your Myers. I should have remembered that. Thank you.
Hi, so yes, again, I'm Jason Myers, and as I've stated before, I am from literally the other side of the country. I had more experience in the small town I grew up in, where I didn't actually experience anything involving Pride until my mid-20s, where I'm literally helping my actual community start their first ever Pride, and that was as late as 2017. Out here, I find organizations like Pride Across the Bridge, and I don't feel like I have to struggle to be myself or to be recognized. I feel alive, even if I cannot attend immediate events. I know that they're there and available to me because of people like Milo and Zella who reach out and make sure that I'm aware, and that people in my life who are feeling lonely, who are struggling, have resources in the queer community to be able to support themselves. So yeah, I very am in favor of putting any amount of like budget or community support into supporting organizations like Pride Across the Bridge, because I come from a place where it's more of a struggle, and I don't want people to have to struggle like I did. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? I'll catch you now. All right, thank you. Just share with me your name when you get. Eugenia?
Eugenio.
Eugenio?
Yes.
Last name?
V. Dallas.
V. Dallas. Great. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, hi. I would just like to voice support for Pride Across the Bridge and other grassroots communities. I think it's really important, and it's like an easy way to directly support community members. So I'd like to voice support for that. And I would also like to ask for more support towards allocating more budget towards specifically protected active infrastructure, like protected bike lanes, as opposed to buffered or just purely bike lanes, like opened bike lanes. I mean, I'll take any type of budget going towards active infrastructure. I think really safety-oriented, like data-driven forms of active transportation, that's great. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And there, please, come on up. One more.
Is there a tissue? I'm gonna blow my nose. Okay, that's fine.
I'll write it down. Or
James Webster.
James Webster. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
I'm sorry?
You have 3 minutes to
Thank you.
address the council.
Hello, my name is James Webster. I am the co-chair of Pride Across the Bridge. I feel like every time that I get up to speak, I want to begin with the same thing, to say that I am tired. I've been thinking a lot about mental health and about the world that I exist in, and a realization dawned on me recently that for most of my life I felt like I've been drowning, and then I came to the realization that I don't need to breathe, but that doesn't make it feel like I'm no longer drowning. I'm just not gone yet. And this has been a very constant emotional state for most of my life. And it's something that I think a lot of people in our community resonate very deeply with, that we are treading water, and more often than not, our head is going below. And money plays such a significant role in our ability to feel safe and secure in housing, in food, in job security, in healthcare, across the board. Our ability to live is expensive. We see a world that is hurting, and while we cannot heal every wound, we have the most incredibly driven executive director who has vision and perseverance that I do not have, and I know very few people that do. And we work with so little money, and we try to do as much as we can. And so I would like to, with everyone else, ask for any support that you can lend for Pride Across the Bridge. Thank you so much.
Anyone else who would like to speak to the budget hearing? All right, seeing none, there is no one who signed up online. The budget hearing is now closed. Our next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the adoption of a resolution of the annual update of the 2025-2030 six-year Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. Resolution number 1594, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Redmond, Washington, adopting a six-year transportation improvement program for the years 2025 through 2030, and directing the same to be filed with the State Secretary of Transportation and the Transportation Improvement Board. Sophie Allen, Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development, will introduce this item.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Tonight, Michael Hintz and Josh Mueller from Transportation Planning and Engineering Group are here to request the opening of a public hearing on the annual update for the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the TIP. Following the closure of the public hearing, the council can make a motion to adopt the annual update. I will now pass it over to Josh Mueller to provide additional information on the TIP. Josh?
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. The six-year Transportation Improvement Program is a short-range planning document that is annually updated and reported for the development of the State Transportation Improvement Program annually. It is important that the city's projects that receive federal and state funding are reported on the TIP, and also projects that the city seeks to go out and receive grant funding in the future beyond. So staff first presented the annual update of the TIP at the September 9th Planning Commission Public Works Committee of the Whole meeting, and again with a staff report on October 1st Council's business meeting. During the meeting, staff received questions from the Council regarding the Move Ahead Redmond funding and the 148th project. We hope that last week's update from Amy Tsai on the legislative agenda addressed any information requests for that project. We also heard from the Council about projects for improving bicycle facilities on Westlake Sammamish Parkway. I want to highlight project C81, the Westlake Sammamish Parkway Improvements Design, which will support multimodal transportation improvements on that corridor. Following the October 1st staff report, a public hearing notice was posted and the draft documents for the TIP were presented on the city's website for public view. Key stakeholders were contacted to announce the public hearing request for this evening. To date, transportation planning and engineering staff received 2 comments regarding the annual update of the TIP. The first one was via the city's Q alert system from a North Redmond resident who was in support of funding project C76, the Northeast 124th Street and 167th Place Northeast intersection improvements project that's in King County. Another resident contacted Transportation Planning in support of the project B76 for Old Redmond Road buffered bike lanes, and along with that request for even higher protection comforts with separated devices or high comfort separated facilities on Old Redmond Road. So with that, if there are no further questions from the Council, staff would like to request a public hearing for the annual update of the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program and consideration for adoption tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff this evening? Council Vice President.
Thank you. We've talked a lot about protected bike lanes versus buffered bike lanes. And if we adopt this tonight as is there anything preventing us from upgrading these projects to protected bike lanes?
Yeah, that's a great answer.
No.
Great, thank you.
That's why it's an annual update.
Thank you. Any other questions this evening for staff? Well, thank you very much to our staff for presenting tonight and working on this. And with that, I will open the public hearing. We have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak in person tonight. When I call your name, you'll come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. We have 4 people who have signed up this evening to speak to our TIP. We'll start with William King, then Michael Leach, then Yuangming Zhao, then Eugenio Vidalis.
Hello, my name is Bill King. I've been a resident of downtown Redmond for 8 years, and I get around by walking, transit, and bicycle. I'd like to thank the city for the investments it is continuing to make in the infrastructure I use every day. Today, I'm asking the city to additionally fund and install protective barriers for bike lanes in accordance with the city's climate goals and Vision Zero resolution. I think most people have encountered road rage at some point. I've been on the receiving end of it while on my bike. I've been close passed, tailgated, and honked at. I've had to brake or swerve around drivers who pull across the bike lane without looking. I've had to merge into busy traffic to get around drivers parked in the bike lane. I've seen drivers brag about taking space away from bicyclists. On the way to my last dentist appointment, I had a close call with a driver who honked at me and then cut me off for making a left turn because he didn't want to wait behind someone on a bicycle. These are not problems that can be solved with public education or outreach because it only takes one angry, impatient person to put a bicyclist's life at risk. Unless we have a space that's physically separated and protected. If we give people a viable, efficient, and safe alternative to driving, many will use it. This takes cars off the road, improving traffic, reducing pollution, and saving money. This is increasingly important as our city continues to grow. We can give our new neighbors an option to get around safely and efficiently without contributing to traffic or taking up limited car parking. But they'll only use it if it feels safe. Today, for many trips, it does not. Protected bike lanes are a responsible investment for the city's future. Thank you for your consideration.
Next is Michael Leach, then Yuangming Zhao, then Eugenio Vidalis.
Hello again, Michael Leach with Move Redmond. I'm just here to commend council and the hardworking city staff that on the fantastic list of projects included in the TIP. They're forward-thinking. They align to the TMP's guiding principles of safety and sustainability. And yeah, it's a great list of options for those that bike, walk, or roll. I mean, really, these are some projects that people have been talking to us at outreach events for years, and I'm just so thrilled to see those actually on the list of planned improvements. And I think just some stories recently, just last night at the Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee, I was talking to somebody with a powered wheelchair about how they use bike lanes instead of sidewalks. Because of the unpredictability of the maintenance of sidewalks. And so this would be a huge game changer for him. He told me that he would love if I brought him up, his story up in council today, so I wanted to do that. And I'm just really excited to also see a more robust east-to-west connection through Old Redmond Road. That's something I've ridden, frequently. It's something I talk about with folks quite often. And so I think it's really great to see that. And of course, this all increases access to light rail and transit, which is, of course, a very big bonus for us. And I think just the additional funding for protected bike lanes would give residents, workers, and visitors the options they need to make a long-term change in their transportation habits and meet our TDM goals for the future. So, thank you.
Next is Yuangming Zhao, and then Eugenio Vidalis.
Good evening again. I am Yuanmeng Zhao, a resident of Overlake Village who walks and takes the bus. I would like to thank the city for working on the Transportation Improvement Program and would like to share my thoughts as a pedestrian. As a pedestrian, I am much slower and much lighter than a car. In the same way, I have mindlessly stepped on snails in the past. In the same way, an inattentive driver can collide into me while I walk across. Though I haven't been run over, there are many times in Overlake Village when a vehicle did not yield to me or another pedestrian while turning. The majority of these cases have been right on reds or left turns on a flashing yellow arrow. Given these circumstances, I believe that no right on red and Ped Protect signaling are highly effective tools, or at least some of the most effective tools, in such a neighborhood. And I thank the city for starting to implement these features along 152nd Avenue Northeast. I hope that the city continues to implement such features elsewhere. I would also like to bring up residents who use bike lanes, whether on a scooter, bike, or wheelchair. Compared to a moving car or truck, these bike lane users are also fragile. Yet, unlike pedestrians, they are often even closer to the road or on the road, which is why I would also like the city to consider protected bike lanes over bike lanes that only have painted buffers or no buffers at all. I believe that protected bike lanes would feel the most comfortable for those who wish to bike or row, or those who have to bike or row. In closing, I would like the city to consider more no right on red, Ped Protect signaling, and protected bike lanes on its TIP. Thank you.
And last, Eugenio Vidalis.
Hello, I'm Eugenio Vidalis, and I'd just like to thank you for the projects. I think they're great. I'd like to support them, and I'd like to thank the council member for bringing up the question of whether in the future buffered can be turned to protected. I think that's pretty nice that projects can be ongoing and updated every year. So thank you. I support this measure.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who would like to speak to the TIB? Mr. Yoder, sure.
Thank you. I'll just talk about a little detail. On the way over here, I couldn't believe all the traffic that was out there because I don't normally drive around now. But I wanted to think about less of the bicycles because I don't bike much anymore, but the scooters. I had an idea because it's dark and it's hard to see these people as well as bikers. that maybe there's like 7 companies that sell electric scooters. If you could somehow incent them to have, to either give away or sell reflective helmets, maybe with cushioned, and a yellow, a fluorescent type orange jacket that they could wear with reflectors and that kind of thing. In the past, the police handed those out, I think, years ago. And maybe that could be something you could put in the operating budget or the general fund, or on one time, I don't know, the general fund. And just start thinking maybe with the police about what can be done to make using a scooter safer, because scooters can get in and out. They're really mobile, a lot more than others, and they can get in the lane and on the sidewalks and cruise to the shoulders. And if they were protected more, we might get a better mobility. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, y'all can't get a break for me tonight. My wife has an electric bicycle, and we're both passionate about reducing the reliance on cars, whether that's through public transit or through using bicycles, because we can have an impact as individuals on, climate sustainability, even if it's small. But really what it boils down to for me is I can't drive because I have severe anxiety. So being able to have bike access to the city is a form of non-physical accessibility for me. And I think it's similar for her. She's got sort of a stressful response to driving as a result of having been a trucker for a year and learning just how dangerous vehicles can be through working in the vehicle industry. There is a need for modes of transportation that COVID-conscious individuals, such as immunocompromised people who are disproportionately affected by COVID, can take, because the bus is not always safe. If you're somebody who getting COVID could kill you, then being in a small contained space with people that you don't know who might not be being careful, that can be very dangerous. So access to bicycles is important there. There's so many different nuances and aspects where making bicycling safer is good for everybody. And the mental image that I would like to impart on not just the council, but everybody in the room tonight is we are humans. We have human bodies, and that's the real vehicle that we carry through the world. The car is like a mech that we get into once in a while, right? You're not wearing the car all the time, so you can't think about your safety from the perspective of your being in a car. Think about the next time that you're walking down the street, I want you to look around at the roads and imagine that instead of a road, it's just an endless abyss, right? The edge of the sidewalk just falls off into a cliff. Instead of cars there, it's just the center of the earth. And imagine your toddler or, your grandmother walking down the sidewalk with that right there and no guardrail, or, riding a bicycle with no buffer between you and that, because that's really what our cities look like from the human walking perspective, right? We're humans first, car culture taking over. That's not what we need as pedestrians, as citizens. What we need is walkable and wheelchair accessible cities and bicycle accessible cities, and cars need to come lower in that priority. Thank you.
Yeah, one more. I also want to share with the public that normally we do the sign-in sheets and everyone has to sign in by 7, but because we had so many public hearings tonight that I wanted to make it easy for everybody. But in the future, normally I wouldn't do this. So just want to set the expectation.
We greatly appreciate you.
Thank you. Please, you have 3 minutes.
All right, Jason Myers here again. I am somebody who would like to bike more in Redmond, in the Bell-Red area. I'm going to be real. The cars and the drivers of the Bell-Red area terrify me. there's like a desire, a maliciousness, and I noticed this in my own roommate. It's almost like a game to see how close you can get to the cyclist without actually killing them. I don't want to die if I'm on the road. I don't want to die if I'm on a bike. And a way to reduce the safety concerns I have there, and also a way to reduce the need for, say, reflective equipment, is to have more protected cycling pathways and areas that people can, scoot along safely without the fear of drivers who want to literally kill us. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we have no one who signed up to speak remotely. Our public hearing is now closed. Any written comment has been distributed to the council, and I already said that. And let's see, the resolution, let me read it correctly. Resolution number 1594, resolution of the City Council of the City of Redmond, Washington, adopting a 6-year transportation improvement program for the years 2025 through 2030, and directing the same to be filed with the State Secretary of Transportation and the Transportation Improvement Board. Is there a motion to approve the TIP?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Oh, Councilmember Fields.
Sorry,
I'm
Mayor, I actually did try to raise my hand to speak.
Sorry, let us pause on the vote. Sorry, Councilmember Fields, I just saw your hand, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I will be supporting the resolution and the acceptance of this plan. But I do want to take note that we heard a lot of discussion of residents who painted a picture of they would like to feel more safe, or they don't feel safe not in their cars, using bikes, using being a pedestrian and other modes of transportation. I think we really need to take a hard note of that. And since we do this annually, I'm asking the people who will begin to work on the next year's update that they envision a different kind of environment, not an environment that scares people or discourages them from riding. As Councilmember Forsyth said, can we update our plan to have more protected bike lanes? We have to make this transition in our planning. I understand that this primarily is used for grant funding purposes and other needs, but we have got to, in Redmond, begin to envision and make the transition into a safer environment. And I've said this many times, whenever I go to other cities that have really good bike infrastructure, I feel like a different person there. I've mentioned this in Banff and Barcelona and Denver and Whistler and other cities, Davis, California. When you go there, you feel that there is a care in the city planners, that there is a vision that makes people more important and their safety more important. Redmond has to begin to make that transition. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Council President?
Thank you. Just a brief comment, echoing the gratitude from Councilmember Fields for the amount of people who came out to share your thoughts on the TIP. Really, really great to be able to hear from so many people. And, I really am happy to support this because I see it as continuing to set our roadmap for where we want to go. And what I heard also, I just want to share with members of the public who came out tonight, is that we not only set the plan, but we invest in the plan. And we say we want to have more protected bike lanes, have it be a safer place to get around, commit to Vision Zero. And so, having this hopefully paired with our work that we'll do in the upcoming time on the budget will be really key to be able to ensure that we advance the projects that are on this list and make a safer Redmond. Thanks.
Thank you. Council Vice President?
Keep forgetting to turn that off. Thank you. Just also want to echo the same sentiments as Councilmember Fields and Council President Kritzer. Continuing to push towards protected bike lanes is something I'm very passionate about. I was actually just in LA this past weekend and saw where I started my cycling career, and feel more safe cycling on LA streets than I do in Redmond streets. So that is a huge statement just in that of itself. But I definitely want to support anything we can do to continue building towards protected bike lanes. I'm also very interested for staff that's in the room for us to start looking at those smaller street sweepers for the protected bike lanes. I know that's one piece of infrastructure we're going to need to invest in. So I really want to start having that conversation as soon as we can while we build towards getting those protected bike lanes in addition to those buffered bike lanes and seeing that plan play out.
Thank you. Any other comment tonight? All right. We had a motion, we had a second, and now we're going to go back to the vote. Starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And that passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. And next, we have one more public hearing. I had forgotten, but we do have one more public hearing. It is on, get to the right place. Our next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the Redmond 2050 Multifamily Housing Property Tax Exemption Public Hearing. Seraphy Allen, Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development, will introduce this item. And I will ask, do they need to take action after this public hearing? We do not need to pass the resolution.
The resolution was already passed. The purpose of tonight is to hold the public hearing, receive feedback from the community. Then the council will provide staff with input and questions, and we'll actually discuss that at our next committee of the whole meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the clarity. All right. Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Again, I'm joined by also Jeff Churchill, in addition to Ian Leftcourt here to my left, on the Long Range Planning Division to request the Redmond 2050 Multifamily Housing Property Tax Exemption public hearing. I will turn it over to Ian, who will provide further information and already shared the next steps.
Thank you, Deputy Director Allen. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. The purpose of the meeting tonight is for the City Council to hold a public hearing concerning a proposal to amend our multifamily property tax exemption program, residential targeted areas. That's a mouthful. We're going to say RTAs for the rest of this. That's residential targeted areas. The proposal will expand the existing Overlake residential targeted area, create a new faith-based institution RTA, and also create a new neighborhood RTA. As a reminder, the MFTE program is a tax incentive program authorized by the state of Washington as a potential tool for local jurisdictions to use. Multifamily and mixed-use developments can only qualify for MFTE if they are within those residential targeted areas, those RTAs. RTAs are designated by local jurisdictions. RCW 8414-040 states that areas within a city may be designated as a residential area if the following criteria are met. First, the area must be within an urban center or urban growth area. All of the proposed RTA amendments are within the urban growth area, so check. The second criteria is that the area must lack, as determined by the governing authority, sufficient residential housing, including affordable housing, to meet the public need. As the Redmond 2050 effort has shown, there is an astounding need for both market rate and affordable housing in our community, and the King County countywide planning policies estimates housing need for all income levels for all King County jurisdictions, and the estimated need for Redmond also demonstrates that there is a need for market and affordable housing in Redmond. So check number 2. The third and final criteria is that the providing of additional housing opportunity, including affordable housing, in the area as determined by the governing authority will assist in achieving one or more of the stated purposes of this chapter. Then we go to RCW 8414-007, the purpose. And the 3 purposes are increasing residential options, especially affordable housing. The purpose of the MFTE program is, in fact, to help promote the construction of housing, both market rate and affordable. It offers a tax exemption which we use as a leveraging tool to help the financial feasibility of development in exchange for some of those affordable housing outcomes. Second part of the purpose is that it focuses on urban centers where there is not enough housing, including affordable options. Redmond's proposed MFTE RTAs focus on generally less than half a mile, major areas of activity which contain a mix of uses and activities such as residential, business, cultural, and recreation. And then the third part of the purpose, so this is the third part of the third criteria, is that it must encourage the construction of new multifamily housing. As we stated, the mechanism of the MFTE is to offer tax exemptions, which allows for improved financial feasibility, which increases the likelihood of crossing the necessary financial threshold for the necessary parties to move forward with actually constructing new developments. Check, 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 right? So all of the necessary state requirements are satisfied by this proposal. Some other odds and ends. The public hearing fulfills the commitment created by Redmond Resolution number 1592, which was adopted by City Council at the October 1st, 2024 business meeting, and the public hearing was duly noticed in compliance with state requirements. The staff recommendation amendment proposals under review at this public hearing are the same amendments that we've already previously reviewed. In addition to acquiring community input, staff asks that the council provide questions or input related to the recommendation so that we can aggregate them, provide a forum for discussion at our committee of the whole meeting on November 4th. And the scheduled adoption for these amendments is November 19th, where we will link this back up with the broader Redmond 2050 adoption. With all of that said, that concludes staff's introductory remarks.
Thank you so much. Any questions at this moment? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lefcourt and Deputy Director Allen. I just wanted to flag for staff that earlier today, Council received some written feedback from the Lake Washington School District Associate Superintendent for Business and Supportive Services, expressing that they have some lingering questions and would love to chat. So about the impact of MFTE expansion, particularly on the growth of students as multifamily comes to Redmond, as well in more ways, and particularly how it will affect the tax base, which impacts their levies. So wanted to flag that and hope that a member of your staff can actually sync up. I know you all have monthly meetings with the district anyway, so wanted to flag that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I ask council member to forward that mail to me as well, since they didn't put me on that? It would be helpful.
It came from the clerk.
Oh.
I can forward it around.
Oh, it's in the pile. Okay, I got it then.
Thank you.
It's in the many, many emails.
From the
we received.
many
Thank you
wonderful
very much.
messages we received today,
Appreciate
yes.
that. Council President.
I'd echo that. I'd just be interested also in the answer at when we come back to committee on any potential impacts for the school district. And then one question that I have for when this comes back is just the clarification on the faith-based institutions, looking at the map. Is it just one small area, or can you clarify what we're talking about in terms of the faith-based institutions scope?
At this point, it is that one parcel.
Okay, and I guess when you come back, can you clarify why that one parcel was targeted versus being able to include others? I believe maybe this was raised by another council member, but I think I might have missed that meeting, so I would love to hear that answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff this evening? All right, seeing none, thank you both very much, and thanks for the clarification on action, no action after this. Thank you. And with that, I will open the public hearing. Have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak in person tonight. When I call your name, you will come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. There is one person signed up to speak. Written comment has been distributed to the council. The clerk's office received no request to speak remotely, so our one individual is Yongming Zhao. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Right. Good evening again. I am Yamung, and I live in the Overlake area. I like living in an apartment and support the development of new apartments and other forms of affordable housing in general. My hope is that more people who wish to live in Redmond get to live in Redmond. Considering my preferences and beliefs, it should come as no surprise that I am in favor of Resolution Number 1592, which encourages the creation of more affordable housing in areas such as Overlake. And I would say thank you now, but I heard the question and my comment never considered the school, so also consider the school, please. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you. And with that, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you all very much. I'm looking forward to our next conversation on that. And our next item of business is a staff report for the 2023-2024 Environmental Sustainability Action Plan Annual Progress Report. Jenny Liebeck, Sustainability Program Manager, will introduce this item. Good evening.
Good evening. So good evening, Council. Sorry, 1 second, just pulling up my slides. So good evening, I am Jenny Liebeck, the city's Sustainability Program Manager. So my presentation this evening will cover our Environmental Sustainability Action Plan accomplishments over the past year and a half. So I'll give a high-level look at our implementation progress, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper by reviewing key performance indicators and accomplishments for each of the ESAP focus areas. So we do this report out every fall. It just gives us a chance to check in on progress and ensure that we're on the right path with our implementation work. So to orient us, the Environmental Sustainability Action Plan, or ESAP, is our comprehensive sustainability plan that was adopted in 2020. So it outlines 168 actions that we need to take to meet our climate and sustainability goals. And those actions have all been phased for implementation, so being identified for near, mid, or long-term implementation. So the ESAP is complemented by Council's Climate Emergency Declaration, which focuses on achieving carbon neutrality for city operations by 2030. And so as we work through the presentation today, you can look for that little green leaf symbol that you see here, which identifies actions that support the declaration objectives. So taking a look at a summary of our implementation progress. So I'm happy to share that 92% of the actions that we committed to implement in the first 5 years are underway. So those are, again, our near-term actions. And 3/4 of all actions in the plan are underway. So we've been able to start some of those mid and long-term actions sooner than we originally projected, which is helping drive that progress for us. This past year also marked an inflection point of sorts with our climate and sustainability work. So our programming is maturing. We've seen a lot of state regulations go into effect, and we're also at a point where many of our planning efforts have moved from paper to reality. So this is a very, very exciting place to be, and I think really, for me personally, at a very exciting time to be working in this space as well. So big takeaways as we reflect on the past year and a half of implementation. So first and foremost, you'll notice as I walk through the presentation here that nearly all of our key performance indicators are trending in the right direction when we compare against our 2011 baseline. But we are seeing some small upticks compared to the previous calendar year of 2022. And that's across the board with nearly every single one of our metrics. Some of this we do expect as we kind of rebound from COVID, but we also know that we need to see that steady decline to meet our goals. This also means that we need to accelerate action and really take a hard look and focus our efforts on initiatives that will drive impact. And this point in particular is an important kind of North Star for us as we update the sustainability plan in 2025. Similarly, we are 4 years into implementation of the ESAP, and we are doing everything that we can with our existing resources. But we know if we want to move the needle, that we need to strategically increase our capacity so that we can accelerate and then scale our programming. And you'll see that reflected in the mayor's preliminary budget, which includes new staff or FTEs to support our sustainability work. And so we're really trying to respond to that need in the next budget cycle. And then finally, we've put a lot of the low-hanging fruit actions into play. But we know we're kind of starting to move into those deeper, more challenging actions, and we can't do that work alone. And so we really need to be doubling down on our partnerships and bold solutions to support and progress towards our goals. So with that, let's switch gears really just a little bit, and I'm going to walk through implementation highlights from each of our focus areas, starting with climate and energy. So here we track energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions to measure our progress. But I should note that our greenhouse gas inventory is completed every other year. And so tonight I'm just highlighting our energy consumption. But at the community level, we continue to see energy consumption decline, again, from our 2011 baseline, but we're seeing that slow uptick or tick upwards when we compare to our previous year. And then that same trend is for our municipal data as well for city operations. But key accomplishments that we saw included 54 residential heat pump installations in Redmond through our regional home electrification program, Energy Smart East Side. And we know that tuning up and decarbonizing existing buildings is a foundational action for our sustainability goals because energy actually represents the largest source of emissions in Redmond. And so this will continue to be a core component of our programming moving forward. And on the flip side of that, Council took action this year to advance green building and mass timber incentives and requirements for new construction through Redmond 2050. And so we made really important progress on both the new construction side as well as existing building programming over the past year. This May, we also opened the Redmond Senior and Community Center, which is our greenest building to date for city operations. And I think, modeling the construction and operation of an all-electric, highly efficient building is just a really great example of how the city is living our values, and we're providing that healthy and sustainable facility for our community to gather. And I think that's something that we should all be extremely proud of. And then finally, Redmond adopted a new climate resilience and sustainability element of our comprehensive plan. I think this is especially important as well as we head into the update of the Environmental Sustainability Action Plan in 2025, because we're going into that update now with a really clear vision and a unified direction for our climate and sustainability work moving forward. And we're also proactively complying with key elements of House Bill 1181. Transportation and land use represents our second largest source of emissions in Redmond, and here we track vehicle miles traveled to monitor the impact of our work. So in 2023, we saw our vehicle miles traveled decrease 26% over our baseline, but again, saw an increase over calendar year 2022. This isn't necessarily a surprise, as we've seen, population grow, as well as more folks are returning to in-office work post-COVID. On the city operations side, we saw our fleet fuel consumption decrease 20% from our 2011 baseline, but again, that similar slow uptick in fuel consumption over 2022. But transportation and land use actions generally are having longer planning horizon, but this past year was again a very pivotal year where we saw a lot of those planning actions become a reality. So from the Sound Transit 2-line opening to the ribbon cuttings for 2 pedestrian bridges, this was a very, very big year for Redmond, and that's thanks in no small part to our planning and public works departments. And we also continued foundational planning work through Redmond 2050 and the Transportation Master Plan update, as well as EV infrastructure planning work that's underway. So again, all with the goal of supporting low and no carbon transportation choices and reducing emissions from the transportation sector. And again, many of the actions within this focus area have been years in the making, and we'll continue to see the dividends of that work to support our sustainability efforts for years to come. For our materials management and waste focus area, we saw the amount of waste diverted from the landfill increase over our 2011 baseline, which this is a positive trend, right? We want to see more waste diverted from the landfill. But again, when we compared to 2022, we're seeing that slight decrease. So more waste is being, less waste is being diverted from the landfill. But despite this, our Public Works Solid Waste team continues to roll out really impactful programs that are driving long-term benefits. So in the past year, the big wins included adoption of the Construction and Demolition Recycling Ordinance, which we expect to have big impacts on our waste diversion rate in the future. And we also partnered with RCUP for Derby Days to use durables and reusables and reduce the amount of waste generated at our signature community event. Engagement increased in the city's educational programming and front porch pickup events. And finally, the city will also be working with a new waste hauler in 2026, and their values are very well aligned with the ESAP goals and targets, and overall this will be a big win for the city and our sustainability goals. And last, the last two focus areas to highlight today are natural systems and water. So our KPI here is focused around tree canopy, which does continue to see a slow decline, largely driven by growth. And so tree planting work, though, did continue in earnest, thanks to the Green Redmond Partnership and the great work of our Washington Conservation Corps members. And together they planted more than 4,000 trees. I think really exciting as well as our Parks Department led the charge to really redefine how Redmond manages our parks with the development of the Climate Resilience and Sustainability and Vegetation Management Plan. We're already seeing that plan being put into action across the city with equipment electrification, rewilding, priority planting areas, and more. And the Public Works Utilities teams are, leading the charge as well with street sweeping to improve water quality and developing their stormwater and surface water systems plan to guide their strategic direction moving forward. So as we look ahead, we do have a lot of big programmatic milestones that are coming up and priorities. I think the big highlight for us, though, in the year ahead is updating the sustainability plan in 2025. And so this will be the time where we're really reprioritizing and focusing our work so that we can make sure that we're making that best use of our limited resources and maximizing our impact towards those key goals that we have as a city. And so everything I touched on today and more can be found in the full progress report, which is accessible online. And we also have a status update for every single action within the plan, as well as Council's climate emergency declaration objectives. And those are all linked here. And then finally, I just gave the highest level view of our data, but we do also have a data dashboard where you can look at graphs and really get in and dive into the data for any community members who might be interested. And I do just want to kind of close by saying, the accomplishments that are captured in the report are thanks to the hard work of many, many staff members across the city, especially those in our parks, planning, and public works departments. And so, this is absolutely a team effort, and a big thank you to everyone across the city for their support and engagement in this work. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Liebeck. I also wanted to say thank you to you and your group of community members that I think some are here today, but that have done just an amazing job of bringing that community perspective into a lot of this work. And we could not be as far along as we are without them. So appreciate your work with them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any?
Thank you to those who are here.
Yeah, I know. I see them out there. Are there any comments or questions? Councilmember Stewart?
Thank you so much, Ms. Liebeck. And actually, that's a good segue to one of my burning questions, which I think I've brought to the table before. As we get ready to do the update next year, and I'm very eager and happy to support additional resources for your mighty team of one, I also hope that having the additional support and volunteerism will eventually benefit some of the actions and indicators in the ESAP as well in the next biennium. But as we get going and get geared up for all of that, how can the community help? How can folks get plugged in? And do you have openings currently on the Environmental Sustainability Action Committee, or do you anticipate having more opportunities? What might that look like in the new year?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be diving, the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee is going to be our primary forum for working through the ESAP update. Those meetings will be open to the public, both virtually and in person. We actually have a meeting tomorrow for folks who would like to join, where we'll be diving in on the scope of work to get feedback on that refreshed scope of work before we bring it to council for your feedback as well. So, and we'll have many opportunities for surveys and things like that. That's all being built into the process. In terms of openings on the committee, we only have one opening right now, and that's a very kind of specialized position for a developer perspective. But all the remaining seats on the committee are filled currently, and no plans for vacancy at this time. But again, open to the public, so they're welcome to join.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. I really appreciate that. And you mentioned a few times needing to focus in on this next round. Are you preparing us for maybe an update to the ESAP that is shorter, has fewer actions?
Yeah, I would say, we have 168 actions, which is a lot. I think one of the priorities for this is really to narrow that down and be very clear as to what we want to accomplish and what we really want to be prioritizing, because we do have limited resources, limited capacity, and so we just want to focus on it as much as possible. That will be the key message and encouragement I have with the advisory committee as well, is what do we really want to do? How can we narrow this in as much as possible?
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate that and looking forward to the process.
Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you. And I would echo the mayor's comments of appreciating the work that's been done by you and by the committee that of volunteers. And it's an amazing body of work, and it's essential that we get it, we continue in the direction that you're taking us. And I appreciate that. My specific question is, you mentioned partnerships. This is something that I've brought up a number of times in the past, and I think you rightly said that it's, we can't do this alone. And as I've mentioned in the past also, when we first did the ESAP and the emergency declaration, my expectation was that we would become a regional, statewide, national, global partner in what is probably the most important thing for the next generation that we can do. So I guess I have two questions around that. Do we need a resource that can focus on developing those partnerships, both with businesses, other jurisdictions, nonprofit agencies, and maybe not tonight, but sometime in the first quarter of 2025, if you could give us an update on progress we've made in that specific area of developing partnerships with other organizations, that would be immensely appreciated.
Absolutely.
Council President?
Well, first I want to echo the other congratulations and thank you to you, Ms. Liebeck, and the whole team, as well as our community that's worked on this. But really, thank you so much for all your incredible work and leadership on advancing this. I just want to underscore, having 92% of our near-term actions of everything we wanted to do since we passed this in 2020 already underway, and 3/4 of all the 168 actions underway is pretty amazing and impactful for our city. So thank you, and excited for the next steps on this. One question I was just curious about, noticed in some of the stats that, we're trending in the right direction relative to baseline, but just since the last year, kind of not as great of direction, and curious if that's related to the last several years having stats that were impacted by pandemic times, or if you can just speak to that and what you expect to see in the long run.
The pandemic absolutely impacted a lot of those metrics. And I think we were hoping that 2023 was that year that things really kind of level out and we start to see what the new norm is. And so we'll actually, with the ESAP update, we're working on an inventory update right now to understand, to take a look at our greenhouse gas emissions for 2023. But as we, again, watch these trends over time, 2024 will also be a really important year to see, did we plateau? Are we starting to see a decline now and create a new normal? But yeah, in short, COVID is what most of us are attributing those trends to.
Great, thank you. And just one quick question in terms of the follow-up. As we enter into the work on the ESAP, will we also be revisiting the tree canopy strategic plan at any point, or kind of looking at those related goals?
That's a really good question, and that's absolutely on the table through the stakeholder process, both internal and external.
I think that was passed even before the ESAP, and so it might be something that's worth revisiting, especially because that had its own set of kind of unique actions, sub-actions under that as well. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Liebeck? Councilmember Anderson?
From a DEI perspective, can we please consider using the term participant instead of stakeholder? Thank you.
Great. Anything else for this evening? Well, thank you again, Ms. Liebeck. I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate all you've done for us and with us. The next staff report is a Sound Transit Light Rail briefing, project status and progress. Vanjie Garcia, Public Works Deputy Director, will introduce this item.
Good evening, Mayor and the Council. We are here today to do a staff report on the Sound Transit activities. And I just want to point out, in the 2013 Transportation Master Plan, one of the goals was to prepare for light rail. And I just want to highlight that we're almost here. And so that's why tonight we're going to focus on the various construction activities for the downtown Redmond link extension, because I think we've all seen everything that's happening around, and the 2 new stations that's going to come. Aaron Noble, Senior Engineer in the Capital Project Division, is the main point of contact for all things Sound Transit at the city. We depend on him to coordinate several meetings all the time with Sound Transit and their contractors to help ensure that revenue service begins next year. Aaron will be providing highlights of project milestones that have been met this year and will give you a taste of what you can look forward to in the next coming year or months. The city and Sound Transit staff meet regularly to coordinate on permitting, active construction, and external communications. The coordination for opening events and activities will start to begin shortly. The current focus is on permitting closeout and getting the line ready for pre-revenue testing. This phase consists of training operational and maintenance staff, as well as testing processes to ensure everything is working as expected. Aaron?
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here tonight to provide an update on the construction progress of the downtown Redmond Link Extension project. I'd like to take a moment to discuss what the project is going to accomplish. All right. There. I'd like to take a moment to talk about what the project is going to accomplish. Sound Transit is building an elevated guideway for light rail, 2 new light rail transit stations, and then many upgrades to the city infrastructure, including to the streets, trails, and utilities. The project begins at Northeast 40th Street and continues approximately 3.2 miles to downtown Redmond. We're now near the end of Q3, and moving into this winter, the project's going to transition from predominantly a construction phase into pre-revenue service. This testing and commissioning process will continue into the spring, and at the same time, Sound Transit will substantially complete the construction phase of the contract. In the spring, the project will enter into revenue service. At that time, the stations and the light rail will be open to the public for transit between downtown Redmond and Bellevue. Service to Seattle will begin later in 2025. I wanted to demonstrate a few examples of some milestones that we completed this year. The 40th Street underpass was open to the public. That part of the project was a partnership between Microsoft, Sound Transit, and the city. I wanted to highlight this project because it was the first example of a project being completely finished, transferred to the city, and being fully open to the public. So then, as we know, since the project began, there's been a lot of traffic challenges within Redmond. And so I have some good news on that front. At this time, we are almost complete with all of the paving in Redmond. You know, what that means is we're going to see a lot less traffic impacts. There still may be some more minor impacts from ongoing construction, but we don't anticipate any additional long-term closures of the roadway and only limited night work remaining. Some upcoming milestones that we're going to see as we move into next year. A lot's going to get done. First thing I wanted to highlight was the completion of the Redmond Central Connector Trail. You can see in the bottom right picture there, that's looking down the new architectural concrete for the trail, moving down along Northeast 76th Street as you move towards the downtown station. That's right out in front of the Amley development. By early next year, all the street work will be done in the city. We'll have all the traffic signals fully operational, and there may only be minor traffic disruptions for repair work and things like that. A really neat project that's going to finish. It's a partnership between Sound Transit and King County. There's the East Lake Sammamish Trail extension. So it's connecting the trail from Merrimore Park to the RCC all the way down into Redmond. So you'll be able to go from Merrimore Park all the way down downtown Redmond on your bicycle as a pedestrian. And then as internally to the Sound Transit, what's kind of the important thing internally for them is that transition to the pre-revenue service. So I just wanted to mention that again. I was asked to talk a little bit. We do a lot of coordination and a lot of working and kind of talk about some of the good things that we've brought out in our work with Sound Transit. And one of the things that I identified was at the request of the city, Sound Transit has completed a lot of what appear to be small concrete repairs throughout the city. It's a really good indication of how we've worked together because Sound Transit's kind of facilitated doing this work for us. It's outside of their permitting requirements, done at predominantly no additional cost to the city. And why I wanted to show this, how this really helps, is the city has an upcoming CIP project on East Lake Sammamish coming up next summer. And so some of the concrete repair work that they did over there is going to allow us to complete that project a lot more quickly because now we won't have to stop during our paving project and complete these concrete repairs. We've also worked really closely together to get a real partnership between Sound Transit, their design builder, SWK, their building contractor, Hanson Phelps, and our planning department has really worked together to be flexible. We all have a lot of different each of the organizations, we have our different priorities and we have a lot of different legal and contractual obligations. And so we've all made a commitment to each other to be flexible and to work together to make sure that we get all these permits closed out and so that we can get the light rail into pre-revenue service and in the revenue service in those timelines that we indicated. It's not shown on the slide, but we've received a lot of community feedback from night work, especially in residential areas. And so we have worked real closely with Sound Transit, and they've helped develop some schedules and some methods of going back to their work. And so we don't anticipate any additional night work near residential areas, especially near the Merrimore station. So that's all for the update. It's a big project. It's a short update. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, please let us know.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Noble or Ms. Garcia? All right. I just want to say, and hopefully you'll still come back and do more presentations, Aaron, but I have gotten amazing feedback about you from our partners at Sound Transit and and SWK about what a great job you're doing. And so I'm going to embarrass you just slightly with the council and the rest of the staff and the community just to say thank you very much. You've been able to help keep this amazing process on target and on time, and it's really because of the work that you're doing as well as the support that you get from others. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know, see, I embarrassed you, sorry about that. You really are doing amazing work, and I think it's important to thank people when they do that. So with that, I want to thank you both very much for coming and presenting that. Looking forward to the next step in light rail opening. Super exciting, and I'm so excited about that trail segment being open. Our next item of business is Ombuds report. We have September. Ms. Anderson, if she has anything to report.
Nothing additional, thanks.
All right, great. And then the month of October is Councilmember Nueva Camino.
Thank you, Mayor. And whew, it's been a busy October. We are halfway through the month, and we have heard quite a lot of feedback. We kicked off the month by hearing from members of the greater, I would say the greater East Side community, greater East King County community, that have concern about whether or not we have been telling the truth about taxpayer money being funneled to Plymouth Housing. Just as a reminder to the general public, all of the records that are kept, you can find them online at www.redmond.gov/PH, as well as go through a lot of the meetings that we've had to follow that timeline along. We've also had some folks, many voices recognizing all civilian deaths as we approached the one-year mark of October 7th and voicing their concerns. Some more folks that are, again, same from the beginning around questions about how the money is being directed for the ARCH program and also for Plymouth Housing. Again, direct you right over to that website. And we've also got some Redmond High School students that are speeding through neighborhoods. So thank you, Redmond students, for parking your cars in appropriate areas now. However, please keep down your speeds. We do have a few other things that I did notice before today's meeting that has come in. However, as Ombuds does, we do have a couple of days to get back to those. I'll have a full report for Monday and Tuesdays on our next business meeting.
Thank you so much. Any other Ombuds items for this evening? Councilmember Stewart, then Councilmember Forsyth.
Thanks. I've had some continued follow-up conversations from our council conversations in the park, chatted about emergency preparedness and community education with a resident just the other day, and then had a follow-up meeting with staff. I spoke with a resident who then came to my office hours to discuss DEI, wanting to work with our city, wanting to work with our staff to continue to just be able to contribute to a welcoming city here in Redmond, and spoke with a parent about accessibility of playground equipment in Redmond for all users. I actually noticed we have 2 parks projects coming up in the preliminary budget that might be opportunities to bring accessible playgrounds online, and so I have forwarded those questions over to the Parks Director for feedback. I visited today at the Redmond campus of Kindering to speak with their staff about trends they're seeing and the opportunity they have to welcome more families and kiddos to their program, and attended the transportation open house at the Redmond Senior and Community Center. And just want to put in a plug, don't forget there is an open house if you haven't been to the community center yet and have been meaning to. There's an open house this Saturday from noon to 3 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you. Council Vice President.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick things. I communicated with a community member that had thought that we had updated our sign code for things like yard signs, and just confirmed we have not updated anything. So the code that we have online still stands. I had a community member ask how to participate in the budget process and gave them information on attending tonight's budget hearing. And also, I personally experienced a homeless person being harassed by another community member, and was really proud of another community member that intervened and chased off the teenagers that were being harassing, and pointed TISA to where that person was sleeping to see if they could get some resources.
Okay. Thank you. Any other ombuds? Council President?
I was able to speak with a couple different community members about various issues, including some that brought up some questions around sustainability, some that were interested in seeing the item that we had on tonight around initiative 2066, and also talked with a resident who serves on the One Redmond Foundation. Got to hear a little bit more about some of the work that they are doing in thinking about the idea of a Marymore Arts and Science Center, and really just interesting to hear about the work as that's developing with a public-private partnership vision. And then also we'll note that I followed up with residents who specifically had addressed messages to me, as well as other folk, about the Plymouth housing, in particular the 5.5 to 5.7 number change, which as I just shared with them, the accurate information about why we saw the change within documentation, and really the difference was assessed value versus a later appraised value. So just encourage those residents to learn a little bit about that, and thanks to everyone for feedback.
Any other ombuds items for this evening? Okay, are there any committee reports? We'll go Councilmember Stewart, then Council Vice President Forsythe.
Sure. I attended the Sound Cities Association's Public Issues Committee and the Growth Management Planning Board. I'll just, for time, mention for some context and some excitement. At the Growth Management Planning Board, we're preparing to review all the comp plans next year. We have to finish doing that by September of next year so that jurisdictions can be eligible for their federal transportation dollars. But there is such good news from the PSRC staff who are very encouraged by the progress, like how close, how many jurisdictions are to completing their comp plans, particularly in relation to the last time we went through this as a region. Folks are doing great, and there's so much alignment with our regional values around transportation and housing and climate, and so the staff are just getting really excited to see more of what's coming. So more to say next year. Thanks.
Thank you. Council Vice President?
Thank you. Councilmember Nueva Camina and I attended the Disability Board meeting and approved some expenditures. And I also had the opportunity and took the opportunity to attend the King County Solid Waste Division long-term disposal open house presentation, which was very long and very interesting. And I have a lot of questions about it. And it was great because some of our staff was on there too, and we were able to communicate in real time about some of our concerns. And I can share that presentation if anyone is interested.
Thank you for attending that. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. Earlier today, we had our Public Safety and Human Services Committee where we had 5 items that we discussed. We had an EMS transport fee program from the fire department, acceptance of a grant of $1 million from U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, $500,000 of which goes to Redmond and $500,000 to Bellevue in a joint partnership there. We received a Human Services 25-26 funding recommendations brief update, which we'll be discussing in further detail soon. Redmond Police Department data governance policy around new technology that's going to be implemented, and a Redmond Police Department police activity report for Q3, where we heard significant updates on recent occurrences in Redmond specific to burglaries and the sort in 7-Eleven, and at the hashtag cannabis shop, as well as with our South Asian neighbors on the street as well. So really, insightful progress that the police department has been sharing, and they're continuing to work on that. I also got a chance to attend the Eastside Transportation Partnership meeting last week with Council President Kritzer, and we received a few updates on I-405 and State Route 167 program update, as well as a legislative preview of what the state legislature is taking on, or what the committee will be working on with regards to the legislative agenda at the state level next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President.
I will just follow up on that ETP update to say I think that was a great summary, and I will also note that we gave some input into ETP's legislative agenda, which they'll be developing. And Councilmember Stewart, I see smiling because she knows that I always give about 18 different comments into this, and often Amy Sag gets very involved in this. So, of course, we will continue to engage on that and hopefully be passing that at the next meeting. But it's looking good and an interesting legislative agenda as we go into some big decisions the state legislature will look at around transportation, as we discussed it and with our own city's legislative agenda. But I think overall people were pretty amenable to adding some things that mirror our agenda in there. I also attended the King Conservation District Advisory Committee meeting. The first big thing that I wanted to note is that I actually heard that as of today, or maybe it was as of yesterday, the King County Council did unanimously pass the updated ILA proposal and rates and fees for the King Conservation District. So that was something that we worked on in the committee a lot and helping with the recommendation there. So, but exciting to see the KCD continue to be funded into the future and to have some new updates that will allow them to be even more effective in their service delivery and responsive to different opportunities that come up for conservation across our area. I also sent an email to the council, so I won't go over all of it, but hopefully you saw I flagged a couple big things we talked about. One is that the Board of Supervisors for KCD did approve creating 3 districted seats. It used to be that this was a 5-seat Board of Supervisors, 2 appointed, 3 elected, but all at large, and they decided to make districts. So that will be a change. And the first district that will have a vote this upcoming year, basically they're going to go 1 year at a time in transitioning to those districts. The first one is south of us, but then ours will be the next year after that. So we'll see that in 2026 with one that includes Redmond and most of the east side. So anyway, I encourage you to take a look at those districted maps, and we'll be seeing some changes on that board in the long run. I'll also just note that we heard some updates on artificial light at night, as well as just their project report. I mean, the progress report from KCD, and there's a really cool story about some of the work to mitigate wildfire risk in the Redmond Ridge neighborhood and near our Redmond Watershed Preserve. So definitely check out that story if you didn't get the chance. And thanks to KCD for all the amazing work that they do in our community.
Great. Any other committee reports this evening? All right, seeing none, we have one more new business. We have no unfinished business. We have one more new business item. At AM number 24-161, adoption of ordinances amending the Redmond Municipal and Zoning Code for conformance with state legislation, Senate Bill 5290 and House Bill 1293. And I'm going to read a few ordinances into the record as, Mr. Lynch is already ready, but hang on, Mr. Lynch. Ordinance number 3174, an ordinance of the City of Redmond, Washington, amending the Redmond zoning code to provide conformance with state legislative updates regarding permit process and design review streamlining, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. Ordinance number 3175, an ordinance of the City of Redmond, Washington, amending the Redmond Municipal Code to provide conformance with state legislative updates regarding permit process and design review streamlining, and to repeal Chapter 4.23, Design Review Board, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. Ordinance number 3176, an ordinance of the City of Redmond, Washington, amending the Redmond Municipal Code, Chapter 4.33, Landmark Commission, to provide conformance with state legislative updates regarding permit process and design review streamlining, providing for severability and establishing an effective date, and ordinance number 3177, an ordinance of the City of Redmond, Washington, amending the Redmond Municipal Code, Section 1522-060, evaluation criteria for Class 1 and Class 2 permits to provide conformance with state legislative updates regarding permit process and design review streamlining, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. I'm not getting warmed up, that's it. Next, we have Jason Lynch, Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development, will introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, I'm joined this evening by David Lee, Planning Manager, and Kimberly Dietz, our Principal Planner. This is for your consideration and adoption ordinance amending the Redmond Municipal Zoning Code conformance with state legislation, Senate Bill 5290 and the House Bill 1293. As a follow-up, as just previous touches, we had a touch with Council on July 2nd, 2024 at Committee of the Whole. We then also had another business meeting on July 16th, and we had a study session on 9/10 in September, and then also on October 1st. So we're back tonight to answer any questions that you may have or any concerns.
Are there any questions for our staff this evening? All right, I guess we don't have any.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a motion to approve AM number 24161, ordinance numbers 3174, 3175, 3176, and 3177?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Council Vice President.
I'd like to divide the motion.
Okay.
Move to divide the motion.
Move to divide the motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to divide the motion. So now we're going to have a vote on whether to divide the motion. So would you like to comment on division?
Sure, there are parts of the ordinance amendments that I support and parts that I do not. So I'd like to support the ones I can.
All right. Is there any other comment on the division? They can divide? Okay, just for me. This is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 No?
No. Aye.
And that passes 5-2. So it's been divided, so we'll take each one by one. Ordinance number 3174, I'm not going to read it again. Is there any discussion on ordinance number 3174? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Aye.
No?
Aye.
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 And that passes 6-1. Let me keep track of this, 3174. Ordinance number 3175. Is there any discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Aye.
No?
Aye.
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 And that passes 6-1. Ordinance number 3176. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 And that passes 7-0. And the last one is 3177. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 And that passes 7-0. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we have approved them all. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, staff, for staying so late as well. Appreciate it. With that, the last item on our agenda is an executive session to discuss labor negotiations. Currently, it's stated for 40 minutes. Director Lair, do you feel like we need 40 minutes? So you can just nod or shake. Do you know 40 minutes? Let's do 30. We're going to have an executive session for 30 minutes. I'm going to give us 5 minutes to get over there. So our executive session will start at 9:45, and we will be done at 10:15. And we will not be taking action after the executive session. Our meeting will be adjourned at that time. Thank you, everyone.